Welcome to Music from Humans, the show where we dive into the creative minds of today's composers and improvisers. I'm your host, Michael Cook, and today I'm thrilled to introduce Stephen Main, a remarkable composer, conductor, teacher, and multi-instrumentalist whose work spans choral, orchestral, and even film music. Stephen, a recipient of the John Ness Beck Award, his perspective is sure to offer a fresh and inspiring take on music making.
One of my personal missions in life with students is to bring back the love and the joy and the implementation and the skill of counterpoint. Because we teach, I hate the fact that we teach students first harmony, right? Which is the great and artificial study of vertical music. It takes a coarse sampling of a chord and says, oh, what is it? Oh, it's an F9. Well, that's perfectly useless. And I mean, it's great if you know how you got there, and it's great if you know how you're going to get from there to the next thing. Those are the things that improvisers really want to know. They don't want to know it's an F9. Who cares, right? They want to know what do I do, right? If I'm on an F9, oh, are there choices I can make? It's important for us to realize that composers of yore, Bach, when he was a kid, never started with harmony. He never started with, here's a triad, here's a four chord. That's not how they work. They started with two parts against each other. And you want to learn how to keep this is about horizontal music. It's not about a vertical chord sampling that we put all of our students through. And maybe by year two, if we get to that, we give them a little counterpoint class, right? The opposite. What I tell students, and also honestly improvisers, is can you work against one other part? Can you keep the integrity, or if you're just writing your own music, can you keep the integrity of that one line against another? Then think about adding in a third. That's enough for the brain to process right there. And that gives you a way of building tension, not by one chord against another, but by the flow of one thing to another, which is how improvisers are actually working and actually need to think. Because nobody cares about a chord when you're in the middle of improvisation. You're thinking about where am I going and where did I come from, right? So those are things that I think improvisation brings us back to, and contrapuntal imitation is your friend there. So another thing I want to do is get counterpoint back into the mix here, because it's a huge part of what we're trying to do, I think.
Yeah. And like to your point, Bach and earlier composers like that, they'd have their melody, they'd have their bass line,
right.
And then the harmony was a figured bass. It was
that's right.
Just notation, because that's where you improvise some ways.
Yep.
I mean, you could improvise on everything because you could do all the color stick effects and add all the twirly twirls and all the other things.
Yep.
The melodies were shaped more than like definite play only these notes.
That's right.
I went to school in the 80s and 90s and certainly had all the musician theory classes, but then we had the composer theory classes on top of that. And the very first ones were just what you're talking about. 2 counterpoint, fugues, the very early basic things to like, you need to be able to know how to write this early things to learn how to make something sound good with just 2 lines.
Right.
And then once you could do that, we'll let you start doing more.
Yeah, we'll move you on to the next stuff. And, I think my friend Michael Orlinsky, who you interviewed for one of the shorts there, and he mentioned a piece of me, he was kind enough to say that he liked it. He mentioned a piece of mine called The Tyger I wrote a few years back. It reminded me that there was it's based on the William Blake poem, The Tyger. And there's a part where I forget the poem talks about the sinewy nature of the tiger and that kind of thing. And I wanted to do something that was sort of sinewy and twisted and all of that. So I chose 2 things. One is octatonic mode, which is a great fallback mode for anything that sounds twisted. Yeah, everybody loves octatonic, right? And I also wanted to use counterpoint. And so it reached a part in the middle of the piece where we were in E minor, octatonic, who knows what that means, and the sopranos took over a theme, and then the altos came in underneath it. So the first theme, and then underneath that, then came in the altos. So it was a canon. It was just a bit of canonic material. It was incredibly effective. I'd love to claim, oh, I'm so great. But it's just because canons are effective, right? People love counterpoint. And it did exactly what I wanted to need. And hey, we wrote a whole 4 bars of music without even having to break a sweat. So counterpoint's hugely your friend, right? And we all love chords. We all love chords that sound delicious, and that's great. And I encourage students, if you hear a chord lick or you see one online or you hear one, write it down, learn it in different keys so it becomes yours. But also, honestly, learn your way around counterpoint. Learn how to phrase things. Learn what good leaps sound like. Learn what resolution feels like. I do find that a lot of our students these days, they're not really, this is a criticism of all of us teachers, we're not really giving our students a good sort of grounding in that. And maybe because we feel ourselves we didn't have as great a grounding. So I encourage all of us teachers, get back into it. You'll really love it. It's just as fun as maybe you didn't experience it, you didn't have a good introduction to it. It's a blast. Species counterpoint is just like a saving thing. It's lovely stuff.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Back here, still got a couple of species counterpoint books.
Absolutely. I love it. Yep.